pledge, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the Board of Education meeting as we basically kick off our school year.
Mr. President, I move that we accept, we approve the agenda with the following amendments. Additional certified and classified personnel actions for consideration, item number F3, and add item number F5C, consider approval of a letter of understanding between Garden City Community College and USD-457 regarding concurrent credit instructors outreach sites.
Any discussion?
Need a second?
I'll second.
Seconds. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Thank you. Okay, at this time, we need to approve the district budget as been published. Does anybody have any questions for KJ on the budget? Okay, do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Have a motion,
Second.
second. All those in favor of,
Just, our agenda says budget hearing. Is this a hearing? Or we're just taking action?
we have to take action and approve the budget as published.
Everybody else is hearing as well.
You might want to ask if there's any comments.
Yeah, is there any comments? I didn't get one of the little deals, so I assume, is there any comments on the budget? Everybody looks at me like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. We have their own agenda items here.
There you go.
Thank goodness it's not the
Hey,
budget.
you guys didn't give me one of the little deals.
I just want to clarify that.
Thanks, KJ, for your thorough report that you've given and been available for follow-up questions as well. Done a great job.
With that, all those in favor of the budget as published, please raise your hand. Opposed? And now we get to recognize some kids for sport.
Thank you for having us, and as always, I'd like to express, and I'm Patsy Ford, I think everybody probably knows who we are, a fixture at the high school, but we took students to FCCLA in Nashville this summer for national competition, and it's always a great experience for the students. There's a lot of activities for leadership and different things there, as well as their competition, and we got to do some other things while we were there. And so we really appreciate the opportunity that the district gives us to be able to go and do those things. So I'll let them tell you a little bit about what they did and how they did at Nationals. So this is Ariana.
I'm Ariana Roth, and I competed in life event planning, and I chose to plan for college, and I made a portfolio, and I had 5 areas that I critiqued the colleges in to narrow it down to 5 different ones, and I had to give them a presentation over my whole time working on it, and I got a silver.
I'm Kristen Padilla, and I did fashion construction, which is where I constructed a dress, and I had to use 8 different types of sewing techniques, and they graded my sewing on the dress that I made and how I presented, and I got a gold.
Did very well. And then we had another student that chose not to go to nationals, which we've never had that happen, so they qualified. But anyway, we had a great time with great kids to take, and so I'm pleased with the results.
You happened to bring your dress, did you?
No, I
No, she should have worn it. These are the shirts that, this is kind of our dress, that the official dress for FCCLA, so that's why we wore these today. But her dress is gorgeous.
What'd you all enjoy the most at National?
lot of stuff. It was a really new experience.
We stayed at the Opryland Hotel, so that in itself is kind of an experience because it's so much stuff inside and it's very big, and that's where the event was. And there were like probably 3 different things going on at the same time besides us, and there were 7,000 FCCLA students there and advisors. So there was a lot of us there. So it was kind of amazing that they could put on that many different things. And I don't know, did you like the competition?
Yeah, that was an experience. I liked
Getting a medal?
So did you have to model your dress or what?
Well, it was on a mannequin, but the dress that I wore, I had also made, and it was the same dress. I made like a duplicate, so I have a purple one and a blue one.
And which 5 colleges did you narrow it to?
Fort Hays, KU, OU, which, Emporia State, and College of the Ozarks.
All right, we're done here.
You don't know which one she picked.
Well, none of them are the right ones. Just kidding. All education is good education.
There was one.
So are you going to use that research in your life plan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which one do you hope to attend?
Really looking at Fort Hays for their nursing program.
Great.
And you get a lot of bang for your buck there, I think you decided, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of a good thing.
Well, I think it's great that you guys are leaderful, I like to say, and that's great that you can use your leadership skills in a venue and in an area that you feel passionate about. We're all here because we're passionate about education. But the older you get, the more you're going to find that a lot of people have a tendency not to step forward and be leaders in communities, and so communities thrive on people like you when you get out of school to make a difference. So I'm very proud that you present leadership skills and qualities. So keep it up.
And they're both seniors this year, so
Awesome.
we'll
Good
miss
luck.
them next year, but I'm glad they're here for the leadership this year.
Good.
Thank you.
We hope we're sending you again next summer.
You do too,
Come on
right?
through. We've got something for you. He's stating that, so good job. Are you gonna show the dress?
Oh, yeah, we have that display window
Yeah.
in the commons area.
Wasn't it made out of duct tape from last time? Or Target sack?
Target set, yeah. So we'll be doing that again, and probably after school starts, we'll get it.
That's awesome.
I don't have any correspondence. Anybody get any correspondence? Move on to the consent agenda then.
Mr. President, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Thank you. Move on to curriculum report.
Okay, the end of June, 1st of July, we took 14 educators from Garden City to the Model Schools Conference in Washington, D.C. I don't think I've ever been prouder to be part of the group. This group was very professional. The learning occurred before we left, while we were there, a lot, and then after we've gotten back. I would like for them to introduce who they are, what they do, and then they're going to present the presentation.
I'm Renee Scott, Associate Principal of the School of Trade and Health Sciences at Garden City High School.
I'm Christopher Corby, 2nd grade, Florence Wilson.
Jenny Bergstrom, Interventionist at A. Hubert.
Angela Lloyd, First Grade Algebra.
Wendell Barber, Principal here at Henderson.
Sue Dumas, I'm Kindergarten at Buffalo Jones.
Ben Luna, I teach at Burning Intermediate Center.
Martha Darter, Principal at A. Hubert.
Renee Alcorn, I'm the literacy coach at the high school.
Alberto Cabello, Principal, Gertrude Walker.
Darren Dennis, Assistant Superintendent.
I think I get to start and lead the presentation. I kind of chose the easiest part, which is to give an overview. And it's very brief, but it's also a pretty exciting part. You can see that we are completely well represented. Everyone from superintendent, curriculum and instruction, principals, coaches, teachers, and then all levels as well. ESC, high school, middle schools, intermediate centers, and elementary schools. I had never been to the Model Schools Conference. I'd heard about it. It was in Washington, D.C. I'd never been to Washington, D.C., so I was excited about that. But it was also the week before the 4th of July, and I'm still trying to hire, and I was nervous about getting away and if I was going to get a math teacher and what I was going to miss out on. All that dissipated the first time I heard the first speaker. We got to hear 3 really renowned speakers. Bill Daggett, his focus was on relationships and also a lot of hard truths about education, and they're going to be expanding on some of that as we go along in the presentation. We got to hear again Sue Sakowitz and her willingness to try to implement with fidelity one concept in order to transform a school. Absolutely amazing. And then Ray McNulty, I hadn't really heard of him that much, and he ended up being one of my favorite speakers. Wrote a book called It's Not Us Against Them, is his most recent book, and I read that on pretty much on the way home from the trip. But what he stressed that really stuck with me in talking about career and college ready standards was, we keep saying we have to teach kids 21st century skills, but we're 13 years into the 21st century. So we've got to get on that. There is now a true sense of urgency to get that done. And then after the model school speakers, we got to see different model schools give their presentation. And we saw a lot of things that Garden City is already doing and doing well as got some ideas of what we would like to do. But one thing that Dr. Atha had mentioned and we started to notice was a lot of these schools were doing very well in districts that still had schools failing. And we went, and this was listed on the agenda as the Model Schools Conference team, which I really like, and we went as a team. And so our goal is not just to transform one school in the Garden City School District, but the entire district. And we would like to do that in about a 5-year plan. So in terms of all really does mean all, I think in Garden City it really means we're all in this together. Sue?
It was really encouraging to hear other schools talk about their experience, because we have already begun our journey and we're well into it. And it was very encouraging to hear some of the things that we've started worked really well for these other schools. So we have a good start, and it gave us a real hope that we can do this too. So we have some things that we need to change coming up, but I think we're ready to look at those and really address those.
One of the hard truths that she's talking about had to do with the number 70. That is 70% of high school students no longer qualify for the military. A lot of the reasons aren't what you would expect, though. The military no longer accepts GEDs. Students have to have a high school diploma in order to qualify for the military. I don't know, none of us knew that, so that was a pretty interesting bit of information. Next, high schoolers can't pass basic literacy tests. Along with that, the ASVAB is no longer an interest inventory. It is the entrance exam for the military. Other reasons would be obesity, drug issues, or incarceration history.
So that 70% is pretty high. It was higher than what we all thought. But another kind of scary factor is that every year that goes up 1%. So we need to start thinking about our graduates, are they employable, and or are they headed toward public assistance?
I want to bring this down to maybe a more personal level. Think about your own families or families of friends or extended families. Do you have someone or know someone that has a teen or someone in their early 20s in their home? hands? I see heads nodding, but no hands going up, so I'm like, okay, this has to work. So. Do you want them to go on to become independent within, say, the next 10 years? Show of hands. I have one, so I'm like, yes. Do you know anyone who owes money after college? College loan.
Four of them.
See, yeah, you and I need to get together, I think. Yeah. Do you know anyone who has moved back home after college? Not yet. It's coming, no. What I want to show is that this is not just a district problem. These are common problems that you see across the nation. It is a national problem. We need to change the way we educate in order to keep up with the changing society, what technology and the world are bringing to our students.
One of the things that I got out of it, and actually all of us did, but Renee has already mentioned the 3 speakers that we all enjoyed, and their focus was relationships. And over we heard that, relationships. I attended Dr. Sakowicz's presentation, and her focus was, yes, it's important to have a student-staff relationship, but it's also important to have relationships with your staff. And not just building staff, but central office with building staff members, and then staff members between each building. And there was a saying that said, you know, relationships is very important to develop that culture. And when we're looking at developing this district-wide initiative, we still have individual schools with individual cultures. Well, we're not going to ask individual schools to give up that culture, their personality. Our focus is how are we going to get those cultures individual and make it into a district-wide culture. And that's the focus that we're going to take as a district.
And along with this culture, we have a culture of high expectations we want to establish within the schools. And one thing that would come up continuously as we talked after each of our days of observations or joining or seeing meetings was a piece of technology called Nextbert, which you guys will see in greater detail later. But this is an awesome piece for educators, principals. It's a networking type service that we can build lesson plans as we go to the Common Core and we go to these career readiness initiatives and standards. We can build lessons through this networking and collaboration piece. District, state, national. You can consult with experts in the field. Just a really awesome networking piece, and you guys will see that later in greater detail. But as educators, it's an exciting piece, and it's a way for us to establish and keep those high expectations and have that moving forward as well.
And one of the things that, one of the culture changes that they talked about, is that one? Oh, I'm sorry.
Throughout the conference, the presenters kept talking about relationships and how they are so vital to the success of students. And we all agreed that what we need to focus on is student and teacher building, school district culture as a whole, and to build those relationships to increase student success, because culture trumps strategy. You can have the best teachers that are all highly qualified with the newest facilities and technology and perfect lesson plans, but if you don't have a connection with your students, they're not going to have the success that they could. So there were a lot of things that they talked about over and over at the conference that we're already doing. We have cooperative learning, looping, the rigor and relevance framework, and just high expectations overall that help create that culture of success. And so we think that if we build on what we already have going for us in a few years, we could be a model school district.
One of the culture changes that they also talked about was the way that we view our job. And one of the things they said was that you need to replace the word accountability with responsibility. I really like that, because I think that's what we need to do. It's our responsibility to make these kids college and career ready by the time they graduate from high school, and that's a big thing for us to do. I think that the literacy initiative that we've started is very exciting, because it's allowing us to look at some consistent goals as a district. And the writing committee, which I have headed up this year, met last spring, and we started prioritizing the skills that we wanted kids at Garden City High School to have the literacy skills. We start out with 14 skills. And on October 1st, we will be rolling out the first part of this, which is a pre-K-12 initiative. And we're going to start out with answering questions. And starting with pre-K kids, just orally teaching them how to start using the question to start their answer. When it gets to the secondary level, they will be doing something like what's called deconstructing a prompt, and taking the question, looking at the words that they're being asked to do, compare and contrast, or cause and effect, or process, and creating a topic sentence that sets the tone for the whole essay that they'll be writing. So we're going to start with that, and then we will be prioritizing the rest of those to do that. It's been really exciting to coordinate the first group, and it's really interesting to get pre-K-12. We have representatives, 26 people representing every building in our school district, and getting them all to start collaborating has been a real unique experience. We're hoping that our district initiative will be as dynamic as the high school initiative that they had at Brockton, Massachusetts, where they brought one of the lowest performing schools in the state up to be one of the highest performing schools. And we will be moving on to the other literacy and the other parts of it, which will include reading, speaking and listening, language and reasoning, as we continue this.
As Renee mentioned, we're working on that initiative, the transformation of the systemic change pre-K-12. And the district that we visited, they've mentioned 3 words consistently. They've mentioned fidelity, consistency, and monitoring. In order for this initiative to take place, not just principals, but everyone in the district, we have to be consistent pre-K-12. We have to have that same language pre-K-12, because we know our kids are so mobile. They go from school building to school building. That way they have that common language. Wherever they go, they're going to hear the same language. It doesn't matter what building they step into. They're going to have that rigor, that relevance, day in and day out. Doesn't matter where they're at. So we have to teach that with fidelity, day in and day out. And then consistency across the board, we have to do it the way it's done. I know sometimes it's like the day brings this up, but we have to be, if in order for this to be successful, it has to be consistent every single day so our kids can catch on. And also, as in our walkthroughs, our coaches and principals, we have to monitor that. We have to be on top of it. And they mention it. Monitor, monitor, monitor. Because if you're not monitoring it, guess what? It just like something else, it'll just fall between the cracks. So in order for this to be successful, and these teachers have put a lot of effort into it, and the teachers that have been working with the writing committee have put a lot of time into it, and it's been a lot of work and hard work, and we want to make sure that our kids are ready for college or career, whichever step they want to take. So I think that's going to be a good step for us and for our kids.
I think you can hear the excitement, the energy that came out of this. In fact, I think it was Renee who said at the end of the conference, I wish we could start school now instead of having to wait for a month, because we've just had this exciting, energetic time together. This group I'm very proud of. They have worked extremely hard. Conference started, actually their work started about 7:30 every morning. The conference ran all day until about 5 o'clock in the evening, and then we gathered as a group and debriefed and talked after that. So it was 6, sometimes later in the evening before we even finished with the conference. And then sometimes there were evening activities. There was one night during the course of that 4 days that they had a chance to go and explore Washington, D.C. They worked extremely hard and put a lot of effort and time and thought into what we did. I'm very pleased with this group and the work that they've done. I hope you've heard some consistent messages, too, about relationships, about building relationships with each other, with students, with the community, but also about being relevant and rigorous in our work. This conference and the message that came from it, and the fact that all of these people have come to talk this evening, and they're also speaking in their buildings, is a model for the kind of professional development that is effective. that is focused, tightly focused, and really vectoring in on where we need to go, and then taking that message back and continuing to work on it. Again, this group did a phenomenal job. This is part of a larger initiative, and Renee in particular referenced that, our literacy initiative. And so this is part of something we're going to continue to do. We're going to continue to be tightly focused. We're going to focus on building relationships as well as instructional skills. So I would like to thank you as a school board for the support that you provide to us, in particular this group. Our goal is to be back at that Model Schools Conference as a model district, something we didn't see, but we want to be there invited as a district, as a system that is a model to the rest of the country. Our goal is 4 years, and I have every confidence that we're going to make that. Dr. Ath, I didn't know if you wanted to make any comments.
I think it's very important to note that the Board of Education has set the tone here with the approval of the District 5-year strategic plan. If you look at that goal 1, as it refers to academic achievement, it aligns with what this group of people did in reference to working toward the implementation of the Common Core state standards, or as I like to refer to them, college and career readiness standards. I'd like to echo again the dedication that these young professionals exhibited in Washington, D.C. at this Model Schools Conference. They were there for learning. And to come back and start this initiative, and there is a sense of urgency as they have clearly articulated here to begin the initiation of this initiative in our school district with fidelity. So I applaud them for the time that they took away from their families to be a very important part of this district. You hear this term empowerment frequently in our profession. What you're seeing here is the beginning stages of empowering our teachers and our administrators to get us where we need to go with the Common Core state standards and, more importantly, 21st century learning. So thank you, and I really enjoyed your presentation this evening, and what was stated, what I heard at the conference too, and you clearly articulated. So thank you so much.
Questions for the group?
Yeah, I got one. And like to maybe what Dr. H said, thank you for your time and taking time out of your personal schedule to go down there. Washington, D.C. is pretty cool to see. One night probably wouldn't cover it at all. 2 weeks would cover it. A lot of things to see. You mentioned about the personal relationship between the teacher and the student, and I applaud your effort on this initiative. And I don't know if this is a fair question, but today, what would you consider the percentage of the teacher-student relationship? 20%? Is it good? 40%? And where do you see to achieve at 5 years?
I think the teacher-student relationships are actually quite higher than that. I think individual buildings have really stressed that. Where we need to take this is now relationships between buildings with staff, and then from top to bottom. Like we need to do a better job with parents, community, each other. I didn't know 3 of these people that went on this trip with me, and in our district. And I feel like we came back together as a team. So I think it's not our teacher-student relationship is actually very strong. But to really move the district, we have to build on the relationships district-wide.
And I think that's great, especially when we go to board faculty meetings. You can see that cohesiveness with that group at that school, and then you go to the next school, the next meeting, and you see that. And then when you see them get together, so I think that's great to see that on that track.
Renee, could you follow up on how the relationships, well, first of all, let me back up. There's no question that you have high expectations for yourselves as educators. There's no question that you have high expectations for your students. How can we, other than through the relationship process, how can we get the student to have high expectations for themselves? Because that's when they're going to run.
The relevance.
Okay, just by the way the material's presented in a relevant way to the student.
Engaging students in meaningful curriculum and instruction. And I think that the shift to the career and college readiness will be a natural transition into increased student engagement.
Especially with the academies that we already have in place at the higher education levels. So.
I'd like to add to that also, that I think it starts also with our parents. We need to make sure that we educate our parents on that piece of it too, to help build that piece. Because sometimes our parents don't know how to help kids or in order to teach them how to help themselves as well. So I think educating our parents is key as well.
And I know Sue Dennis and Dr. Dennis can also attest to the fact that I want to call it first grade ready, but I don't think that's what it ended up being called. But the program that we established to get kids ready for first grade and on, a lot of that process had to do with getting the parents involved. And so you mentioned culture a lot in your presentation, and I think that's a culture that we're going to instill at early pre-K, K level, even first grade level, so that that culture is common and comfortable for both the student and the parent, so they can take that with them all the way up. So I think we are really poised for a huge amount of success from our kindergarten program all the way to our academies at our high school level. So, and of course our teacher and staff relationships are great. So keep up the good work.
Any questions? I'm curious specifically to the teachers. You brought a lot of enthusiasm tonight, so when you got back and you started just having informal conversations with your colleagues, I'm sure your enthusiasm was coming through. How was it received? And what's the buy-in from your colleagues?
A lot of smirks.
And that's okay, be honest.
I'm going back for a day. Sorry, see that? I'm back. You know, the conversations I've had, it's pretty exciting. Leaving the school last year, there's a transition to the Common Core and career readiness standards, and there's a little bit of apprehension among teachers that it's going to be very difficult to keep up with. I mean, there's a natural fear there, and you know, discussing with them the things that we had talked about, understanding the rigor relevance framework in greater detail at Washington, D.C., coming back and giving that information to them has been a little bit, probably kind of put them at ease a little bit. Also, another tool that we're going to receive, that Nextbert tool, is an amazing tool we'll be able to use. I mean, lesson plans that we've had in the past, we can build them through this new technologies and online program and make those college and career ready type lessons more intriguing, more engaging, with higher expectations. I mean, there's some transitionary stuff we've picked up along the way, so they're excited. I mean, if in the school, then they're excited for this career readiness. I mean, I think that it makes natural sense. And when we talked about our experience in Washington, D.C., I think they're excited to see some of it in action, for sure.
Anybody else?
The people that I've talked to were all very excited. They wanted to hear about what we've learned, and everybody's a little bit nervous about the new standards and how we're going to get there, but I think going to the conference just kind of reinforced that we're already on our way. It's not anything completely new and different. It's just different formats, and with some tweaking, a lot of the things that we're doing just fit right in and help us succeed.
Along with what she said, once they realize that it's not something new, that we're not putting something new into action this year after we did new things last year, it was a lot easier for them to take it in and just kind of go with the flow.
Yeah, I have a question, I guess directed to Mr. Molina based off of what he's saying. Because you're probably the only one in this group in the unique situation of being in school on improvement, because you're at Vernon being said. So how is that kind of playing into what you're dealing with your colleagues?
There hasn't been a lot of discussion as far as, I have met with our principal, but we're kind of in a planning phase of how we're implementing this. I mean, like we've talked about rolling out some of the district initiatives, it's new. That really hasn't changed our approach as far as the building on improvement. We're continuing with the district's vision, moving along with that, and really focus on that. I think those two kind of naturally come together as we improve with our expectations and the implementation that we want to do. We'll see improvement that we want to see naturally, I think. So hopefully that answers your question.
to help them become successful.
Well, and I want to thank you all for going. I mean, as Dr. Aiken said, taking time out of your summer, taking time away from your family, I appreciate it. And I appreciate, and I've gotten feedback from several people about how well represented Garden City was. And, I mean, I spent a lot of time bragging to my hugely wealthy sister about how good our school is compared to where the starting point and what we deal with. And to hear those kind of things come back, I'm really thankful to have you all and have you in the game.
Thank you.
Well, no one else was joining, so I'm like, okay, are we going to?
We're waiting for you to start.
Okay.
College and career readiness sounds so much better than Common Core, because you understand what it means. It's just better.
We will have to look at to drop the term Common Core state standards, eliminate that from our vocabulary, and move more toward college and career readiness standards. I think it makes more sense. I think it has a more positive connotation. It really is what we're striving for. And so I think you'll see us moving away from using that term Common Core, because it has somewhat of a negative term. It's received negatively out there, negative perception among some people that really don't understand what it means.
Well, it implies a cookie cutter approach to teaching, and that's not how it works. Students learn differently and they have different plans.
Okay, under new business, we've got some policy revisions.
And they are exactly that. They are revisions to 5 drug policies. The Kansas Association of School Boards have wordsmithed these policies and probably increased the clarity and made it more accurate to what they need to do for us. Randy Guzell has looked them over as well. I've looked them over, and Dr. Carlin, I believe, has looked them over as well, and we're recommending that you approve these as presented, but not this evening. We'd be happy to entertain any questions over the next week or two until our next board meeting, and more than likely, if there are a lot of questions, we will be bringing them to you for approval on the consent agenda at our next meeting.
Any questions on the policy revision? Good. Item number 2, the board meeting scheduled for September 23rd. We'd like to move the meeting at 5 o'clock. Sally Cobble will be doing a legislator meeting starting at 3:30. Just her and legislator. She says that the meeting will take an hour and a half. And then at that point in time, we would hold a board meeting, which the legislators have committed to Sally that they will attend. And after that, we will have a discussion on Common Core or a presentation for these legislators to provide them with some information as they head back to Topeka for the next session. Yeah, it will be here at the ESC office.
The goal here is there's a lot of miscommunication out there with Common Core standards. So our presentation that evening, and this will also serve as our board retreat, fall board retreat as well, is that we will bring hopefully some students, some teachers, some parents, some business owners. We'll be working with them and organizing a presentation to explain to our public and to the legislators who attend how the Common Core came about. That it really came about from a group of governors, and this was driven by the Iowa's governors. And we will kind of give some history, and Sally will do that in a couple of slides, and then we'll move into a presentation of it's kind of informing our public and what it is, and then we may have some public forums after that in our community, trying to inform them and answer questions that they may have, so they have a better understanding of what the district is trying to accomplish, what you just saw in the last presentation of the Model Schools Conference.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the change in meeting time to start at 5:00 p.m. on September 23rd, 2013.
Mark, second. Okay, did you have a question, Mark?
Yeah, but I mean, we can do this and then talk about it. It's a general question about implementation of the term.
Oh, okay.
My thinking is, just to lay your concerns at ease, is I'm curious how we will implement this new term. College and career ready, I think, is ideal. Maybe refer to it. But obviously, we have to keep working back with the state, and so we're going to be faced with that term. And yet, just the presentation we had, you kind of want to shift your culture, speak in terms of how you want to speak. So how are we going to do that was the general question, but we can act on this motion.
The United School Administrators had this conversation, and they're recommending changing the name from Common Core State Standards to College and Career Readiness Standards. So that this discussion's already taking place out there from a political standpoint, that the latter is more accurate as to what we're trying to accomplish. So it's not something that your superintendent has come up with. It's something that is out there for discussion, because there's so much negativity about these standards right now. And when you go to reading that literature, the facts do not support the negativity. It just doesn't. So it indicates to me we need to get a clarified message out there to our public as to what it is, so they have a better understanding.
So as the state Board of Education and Sally and others talk about this, to me, that's the point, is how do we shift the references so that in Kansas, when we say college and career ready, is the common core, we're talking in terms of college and career ready. That was just the question.
Any other questions or discussion?
So is this day our retreat day?
This will be our retreat also.
I may be late if I'm not opposed to meeting early. I just have board obligations that if I miss, I won't get a week here at all.
The day job.
Yeah.
All right, all those in favor of changing the starting time? Opposed? Thank you. A couple discussion items. One, we still have a couple blanks on the agenda meeting, so if something has changed, then you can fill in one of those. And we have one more opening under technology as far as media assignments. And Tim was able to attend the school board leadership workshop last week in Topeka. And you have a couple comments?
Well, I just want to thank you guys for allowing me to do that. Thank you, Tom, for encouraging us to do it. It's funny listening to these teachers and principals. One of the topics we talked pretty heavily about was relationships. At least 2-3 of them talked about relationships, not only relationship to the board members, but relationship with the superintendent, the key staff in the district, and then parents and teachers and schools. And so that relationship is very, very important. And then just talked a little bit about superintendent evaluations. And I visited with Dr. April this morning and talked a little bit about what I learned. It was a good training. I encourage you all to go. Now I know it's a long trip to Topeka, and rained, and, it's tough to get away, but I'm glad I did. Very, very good information. And Dr. Dennis was my partner, and we met some pretty neat people from Andover and from all over the state, and just a good opportunity. It was well worth the try. So again, I thank you for allowing me to do that, and then I also wanted to thank for the tickets to the Chamber Banquet. Kenny and I had a great time, great dinner, the meeting was funny, and the people we sat at the table were great guests. Had a great time, a lot of fun.
Tim, I'm glad you were able to go to the leadership conference. I'll echo what you said. And the times I've had the opportunity to attend, I've been very impressed with what you pick up just by being there. I would encourage in the future any opportunity you would have to attend. Not only that, but any of the Kansas Association of School Board meetings. I learned as much from the interaction with the other districts as I do with the presented material.
Can I make a comment based off of what we talked about earlier with the changing of, I really don't care what it's called, if it's college and career ready or Common Core, but my concern is perhaps the perception that will be out there. Because I think a lot of us who knew of all of the variation of names of what's been going on the federal government kind of chuckle each time when we got a new name. When we had No Child Left Behind, we had Race to the Top. You know, I would just hate for it to lose credibility by going through a name change. And I'm afraid that if we change it at this point, which I know it's out of our hands specifically, but if it goes through another name change, will it lose its credibility as to whether or not this is the thing to be doing? Everybody knows it is Common Core. Yes, I know there's negativity to it. I think it's unwarranted negativity. But if we give it another name, will that just add to the negativity? I don't know, just a couple of things to think about. Because I know I always laughed at the fact that we had Race to the Top and No Child Left Behind anymore. So I would just hate for it to lose its impact.
You know, the comment I would have to that is you have to be sensitive to that, I think, politically, because it's a political concern. The federal government somehow developing a process that will hold everybody to a set of standards. But the college career ready, I think, is really what they said, what we're all about. Whatever you call it, it's the implementation of that goal that I think speaks volumes of what we're really trying to do, quality learning, responsible citizens. And so I think it's the conversations, the relationship, and to the extent people get tripped up on the name, whatever we call it, the focus is college career ready, and I think that will help the culture of conversation. So, but your point's well made.
I think Sally Coleman will help direct us as well because of her, hopefully.
Other questions, comments? A reminder, we all received an invitation for the Educator Appreciation Dinner, which will be Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. at Bible Christian Church. Teresa, can we let you know who's going to attend and you'll notify? Okay. Please let Teresa know if you'll be able to attend. It's kind of a fun casual evening. Go meet some of the new people we have coming in.
We have so many new